Hey, good morning, everybody. I am so honored and happy to be back here. I welcome you on this amazing, amazing Sunday morning. And I just, you know how I do. I don't want to keep y'all too long, but I get excited when I get a chance to come in here and talk to you. So here we go. Let's, if we can think about this as a liftoff. I'm doing this little countdown in my mind, like 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, thank you, God. So let me tell y'all how I came up with this. I want to take off my glasses. Y'all know, don't let me forget those. So you know how I do. Well, maybe not. So this week when Vivian sent me a text message to say, hey, I need a title, I started praying about it. Okay, God, what would you have me talk about? And so I sat in my meditation, and at first nothing was really coming. And I was just kind of like, okay, because I have a hard time when you have me pre-plan something, just not the way my mind works. And so I'm like, okay, let's see. So nothing came in meditation. So I get in the shower, and I'm in the shower, and the shower is amazing. I don't know about you guys, but this, as the water connects, I'm in the shower, and all of a sudden I hear this word, embracing ambiguity. And I thought, embracing ambiguity? What is that, right? What is that? So when I come out, I started thinking about, you know how it goes, Hank. You start thinking about ambiguity. Ugh, what a word, right? And I started like, okay, let me, what is this ambiguity? Ambidextrous. You know how you go through all the words and you're thinking about this ambi. So I started looking that up, and it started talking about this idea of doubtfulness, right? But in ambiguity, there is this part that, and in ambidextrous, we know that it is evenly being able to use both limbs evenly. I thought about ambivalence. I thought about all these words that started with ambivert. I found out I'm an ambivert. You know what that means? It means neither an introvert or an extrovert, but a bit of both, right? I do well I found that out. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about ambivalence. I was just going through and I was just looking at this, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, so what am I supposed to talk about as it relates to this? Well, I got to jump over here and tell you guys, I have been participating in this group. It's a discussion group, and we talk about Deep Space Nine. And it has been such a blessing to talk about, who was that shouted out Deep Space? There you go. There you go. Woo, another Trekkie. So we've been talking about Deep Space Nine, and in this thing, there is this one episode that we watch where Commander Sisko was going through this whole thing about, whether or not he did the right thing by drawing somebody into a war. Now, I could go into the episode, but I could go all into there, but one of the things that was so interesting is after he goes through this whole thing of having this debate, he's really putting it in the captain's log, and he goes through this whole debate about whether or not he did the right thing or not, and in the end, he kind of came to the conclusion, I'd do it again, right? I love that, because one of the things that it caused us to see, or caused me to look at, is this idea of the means versus the end, right? We get caught up in our society of thinking everything has to be so good and just right. We make a concerted effort to always be what we call good Christians, or good new thoughts, or good something, right? But we never consider that there is this, there's always this thing that kind of, what did Job say? Or no, who is it that said that there is this part of the flesh that pulls us into the dirty, gritty parts of life, right? And so when we're just trying to be good and we're always considering what it means to be good, it's almost as if, and I'm going to use Noel might get off on this term, it causes this cognitive dissonance because we're pulling on one hand over here into what our truth is, and then on the other hand, what we aspire to be. We aspire to be good, right? But if you could think about it, that there is a necessary part of us that kind of has our, I mean, y'all ever seen after birth? Y'all ever seen the process of birth? It's not beautiful. It's it's gritty. It's Okay, thank you. So there's this part of us that is torn because we want to be good, and yet. So when I started thinking about this ambivalence, to embrace this other part, I started thinking about how often we are trapped in our own conundrum because there is a part of us that can't accept the truth of our own beings. And so we go around and we hide the things about us that we find unacceptable. And what does that cause? It causes some issues in our own thinking if we can't even accept ourselves for who we are. I mean, can you imagine this, that I'm always putting on a mask or a face for somebody else because I can't accept myself? We go through guilt and shame and all these other things because we can't accept ourselves. So I was having a conversation about this at the start of one of my yoga classes. We do this Dharma talk. And so I started talking about it, and, it was really interesting because as I shared this thing and talking about the means versus the end and all this good stuff, and there was a woman in there, and she says, it's as if, this is what she said. She says, I am the child of the woman from across town. And she said, I had to deal with that my father had another family over on the other side of town that was legitimate, and I was his love child. You remember the song from Diana Ross, Love Child? I'm not going to sing it for you, but no, Rose. So there's this part of us sometimes that walks around with this shame, this guilt. And I don't know if I shared with you guys that one of my ancestors stepped up in my meditation one time and she says, babies are born innocent. They have nothing to do with the circumstances of how they came to be, but they are innocent. And yet we have people walking around feeling as if there is something inherently wrong because we're caught up in our judgments. Now, Jesus said a simple thing, to stop judging, right? And if we can't stop judging, then we need to get to a place of acceptance of what is. Because if we're in this thing of just trying to, either be good or, y'all know that Judas had a role to play? Do you know that he was selected as a disciple? Do you know that he had something to do that was just as important as John and James and all the others? I mean, we know that there is a part of society and a part of our own lives. It's not just the other people. I mean, some of y'all know, even when you go to the bathroom, it's horrid. We've got internally, we got stuff within us, even if it's our thoughts, that sometimes come in conflict with the goodness that we desire to be. And so this thing of embracing this idea, for me it was like, wow, how could we not? How could we not accept all of these things that in us we are finding objectionable? Because it's only through that we get to that place of inner peace, that we find peace within. So instead of always sitting there and thinking that it's really interesting, because I look at this and I know that in other cultures there's a trickster god. There's that trickster that and we have to understand that, sometimes those tricks that they play on us, those times at which they shapeshift, if you will. Those times in which we find those things challenging is really a challenge to ourselves to ask, what can I not accept? What could you not accept? A Course in Miracles says, if you knew that everything that happened in your life, everything, either good or bad, was planned by one who loves you absolutely. I mean, can you sit in that for just a second? All the times that you've fallen down, all the times that you've made a mistake, all the times when even illness and sickness comes into your body, everything that you have ever been through was planned by one that loves you absolutely. What could you not accept? I just wonder about that. And sometimes, while it's fine that we get to a place of self-acceptance for ourselves because we push that so far down and out of our thoughts, we get it to a place of self-acceptance about ourselves, but then there's other people. They become a problem, right? It's them that's got, it's them. If it wasn't for other people, John Paul Sartre said that, right? He says, hell is other people. But so too is heaven, right? So when we start to think about all these things that happen to us by one, or is planned by one that loves us absolutely, when we start to think of it from that perspective, it puts us in a different space. For me, I'm asking to see the blessings in the situation. Given what I'm going through, given what has happened to me, whatever that might be, can I find the blessing in it? Can you find the blessing in it? And when you find the blessing in it, it's almost like we want to scream out bingo or something like that. When you find the blessing in it, then it's a blessing that we need to share with others, or it's an idea that we need to share with others, because it's only sometimes through sharing this blessing that we really discover how beautiful it really is. When we push it down and when we hide it, I tell you, it seems like things metastasize from that. And I mean it in a way that sees how these things can grow into something ugly as long as we're trying to hide it. So this idea I had of embracing ambiguity. Embracing ambiguity. Both and. So I can talk about it in this doubtfulness way. But I'm also speaking of it in this way that says that it's all good. It's all good. Can you imagine saying it's all good because it's all God? There is nothing else, no other activity. It is all God. I love how my yoga instructor says, life be lifin'. And I repeat that to myself over and over again. Life be lifin'. If that makes any sense. It does what it does. And me getting caught up in the judgments about it does me no good. So it's coming into this moment and looking at it like, ooh, how beautiful all that is. And everything contains a lesson in there for me. Everything in it contains a lesson for you. What could you not accept? If the children that you complain about, right? They were sent to you by God. So they're perfect. They're perfect for you. They're perfect in themselves. There's no judgment, no condemnation. When we look at the illness that takes place in our bodies, whether it's the aches or pains, they say growing old ain't for sissies, right? It's perfect. What am I supposed to learn here? What am I supposed to feel here? And when we stop hiding, we see that the same things we experience, everybody else does too. I don't know about y'all, but the very same things that we're judging, it's a collective thing. But as long as we're keeping it secret, we don't know that. I have a tendency to tell all my stuff, right? Because what I know is that I'm human just like everybody else. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And sometimes when I give myself permission and other people see me taking permission, then they feel liberated and that they have permission to as well. Because I'm not judging. But I tell you, you will trip over the judgments that you project. Something came to me when I was doing this thing. Y'all know I don't do notes, but it was interesting. I thought about this thing as I was thinking about judgment, and I wrote down that you get a double portion of what you project. Because there's only one of us here. So if I have it and then I project it into somebody else or onto somebody else, you get a double portion. What does that mean for you? Do you like the double portion that you're getting, or is it a bitter pill? So sometimes what we have to do is we have to learn how to let go. We got to learn how to release. We've got to embrace the ambiguity. We got to embrace all of the stuff that we would reject. The rejected stone that became the cornerstone. I always get my stuff screwed up, but it's all good. That's because I don't go through and try to prepare and be so perfect in the first place. Perfection is a beast. Perfectionism. It's a beast. Julia Cameron says there is no such thing as, well, she didn't say it like this, but what I took her to say is that this perfectionism, no such thing. There's just a good place to stop. That's what she says. It's a good place to stop. Quit trying to make everything perfect and just let it be. Let it be, right? Just let it be. So when I thought about all of this thing about ambivalence, I mean, there's so much that we can talk about ambiguity. There's so much that we could project into that. But the thing is that I think that the cornerstone of what I'm saying is that you've got to just love what is. Whatever it is, however it shows up. I know some of y'all are just like, ooh, that does not compute. That does not compute, right? I get it. Because it's been something that we've learned. It's been something that's been put into our system since we first entered school. Actually, probably before that, somebody was telling you about what you needed to do and how you needed to be and all those other things. How's that working? So as we learn how to love what is, we let ourselves off the hook and we let others off the hook. So when I think about the perfect lessons that Jesus showed us, when I think about all of this stuff and thinking about stop judging and the loving and all of these other things that come up when we start to do this stuff, it would be wonderful if we could just get to a place where we learn the truth of our own being. That who and what you are is perfect here and now. Right here and now. And so too is everyone else. So as you drive down the street, challenge yourself to say, there's God, and there's God, and there's God. And when somebody cuts you off, say they too are God. Right? There is only one power. One presence. God the good. God the good. We sing it here. No exceptions. No exceptions. Can we embrace that? All right. So with that, I am going to set you free. Because I just think that we need to be about that whole thing of embracing the ambiguity. All right, blessings to y'all. That's what I got for you today.